This is Folake, my new business partner.
Standing at the head of the room like a man announcing good news. My new business partner. Nkechi's hand froze around her cup of tea. The family sat around the living room, uncles on the good chairs, aunties on the sofa, cousins standing near the doorway. A family meeting. Obiora had called it himself, which was rare enough to notice. Nkechi looked at the woman standing beside her husband. Gold earrings, a tight, practiced smile, a leather folder held against her chest like a shield. Nkechi had seen that face before. Twice. Once, outside a small office in Yaba, with a sign that said nothing about what actually happened inside it. Once again, in a parking lot, getting into a car with tinted windows while a heavy-set man waited by the door like a guard. This woman was not a business partner. Nkechi knew exactly what she was. And in that moment, sitting in her own living room, smiling politely to a room full of relatives, Nkechi understood that the real danger to her family had nothing to do with romance at all. Let me take you back to the beginning. 6 months earlier, Nkechi began noticing small things. Money disappearing from their joint account in amounts too specific to be careless. A missed payment on the generator loan. Obiora growing quiet whenever she asked about the family's investment pool, the shared savings his uncles had built over decades, meant to fund school fees, business ventures, emergencies. Obiora managed a portion of that pool. It was an honor his uncles had given him 2 years earlier, trusting him because he was sharp with numbers, always confident, always ready with an answer. He had earned that trust the ordinary way, slowly, over years of showing up reliably at family functions, of speaking well in meetings, of being the nephew the older men liked to point to when they wanted to prove the younger generation could be responsible too. Nkechi had been proud of him for it once. She used to tell her sister that marrying Obiora meant marrying a man other people trusted with important things. That pride made the small cracks harder to see at first. Nkechi asked him once, gently over dinner, "Is everything all right with the pool money?" "Why would you ask me that?" Obiora said, not looking up from his plate. "You worry too much." He said it the way he said most things when he wanted a conversation to end. Light enough to sound harmless, firm enough to close the door. She let it go that night, but she didn't stop noticing. She assumed gambling at first, then a bad investment, something he was too proud to admit had failed. She had seen it happen to other men in the family before him. Pride making a mistake worse by hiding it instead of fixing it early. Her own father had done something similar once, decades ago, and it had taken years for that particular wound to close.
She never once suspected another woman.
Whatever was pulling at her husband, it didn't feel like that kind of secret. It felt heavier. Financial secrets have their own particular weight, and Nkechi had learned to recognize it without knowing exactly what it was made of. If you've ever had a feeling something was wrong in your home, long before you had proof, put a 1 in the comments. Nkechi's story starts exactly there. For months, Nkechi did what many wives do. She watched quietly. She kept the household running. She said nothing directly, but she started paying closer attention to bank alerts, to conversations Obiora had on the phone with his voice lowered, to the folder he kept locked in his side of the wardrobe. She never opened that folder, not yet. She told herself she was imagining things, that marriage came with secrets, small ones, and not every secret was a betrayal. Then came the day Obiora announced the family meeting. "I found a way to fix everything," he told her the night before, more energy in his voice than she'd heard in months. "A real opportunity. My uncles just need to see the plan." Nkechi asked what kind of opportunity. "A supply contract," he said, "with a new partner. She has connections, funding, everything we need to make this work." He didn't say a name. He didn't need to. Nkechi already had a bad feeling settling low in her stomach, the kind of feeling that doesn't announce itself with facts, only with weight. She had no idea how right that feeling would turn out to be. Now you understand what she was looking at when Folake walked into that living room. Obiora spoke for almost 20 minutes, laying out the supply contract idea with the same confidence he used for everything. Big numbers, big promises, a partnership that would fix the family business and multiply what the uncles had already invested. Folake spoke occasionally, smooth and rehearsed, sliding papers across the table with practiced hands. The uncles nodded along. One of them, Uncle Emeka, the oldest and most trusted voice in the family, seemed genuinely impressed.
This could be good for all of us. You've grown into this, my boy.
Nkechi sat perfectly still, holding her tea, holding her face steady, while her mind ran through everything she now understood. The missing money from months ago hadn't disappeared into gambling or a failed investment. It had gone somewhere far more dangerous. And now, someone connected to that danger was standing in her living room, dressed as an answer, when she was actually the cover for a wound that had never healed. If she said something right now, in this room, in front of everyone, it would end the meeting instantly. It would also end something else. The uncles would panic. Money already promised might get pulled in ways that damaged the family's standing with lenders and partners outside the family too. And worse, if she was wrong about any small detail, if her memory of Folake's face was mistaken, she would destroy her husband's reputation over a guess. She needed to be certain before she was loud. So Nkechi did something that went against every instinct screaming inside her. She smiled, thanked Folake for coming, and said nothing. That night, lying awake beside Obiora, Nkechi made a decision. She would not confront him yet. She would find the truth first, all of it, and only then decide what to do with it. The next morning, she began quietly, the way a person moves when they don't want to wake something dangerous. She started with her cousin, Adaeze, who worked at the bank where the family pool was held.
Ada, I need a favor. Nothing serious. Just checking something for Obiora.
Adaeze pulled what records she could, carefully, the kind of careful that comes from knowing this wasn't really nothing serious at all. It took her 3 days. She called Nkechi back on a Thursday evening, her voice lower than usual, the way people's voices drop when they're about to say something they wish they weren't the ones saying.
Come to my place after work tomorrow. Not on the phone. This one, I want to show you properly.
Nkechi sat in her cousin's small living room the next evening, printed statements spread across the coffee table between them, and let Adaeze walk her through what she had found.
8 months earlier, Obiora had moved a significant portion of the family pool into what looked like a private investment account. The account had lost almost everything within weeks, drained by fees and transfers to entities that led nowhere good. Look at this transfer, Adaeze said, tapping a line on the page. And this one, same pattern, 3 separate times. Whoever set this account up knew exactly how to move money so it wouldn't raise flags on a normal review. This isn't a bad investment, Nkechi. This looks deliberate. One of those entities connected through 2 more transfers to a name Adaeze recognized from bank compliance flags. A non-loan shark operation. The kind that didn't lend money out of kindness. The kind that expected repayment through fear, through pressure, through people like Folake, who dressed nicely and smiled warmly, while quietly making sure debts got settled one way or another. Be careful with this, Adaeze warned her, gathering the papers back together. People connected to accounts like this one don't like being investigated. Whatever you decide to do with this, do it smart, not fast. Obiora hadn't just lost the family's money on a bad investment. He had lost it trying to cover an earlier bad investment, borrowing from dangerous people to hide the first mistake. And now he was trying to pull in fresh family money through a fake business partnership to quietly repay the loan shark before anyone noticed the hole underneath it all. Nkechi sat with that information for a long time before she moved again. She thought about confronting Obiora directly. She thought about telling Uncle Emeka everything immediately. But she needed the second scheme mapped out too, not just the first. She needed to know exactly how the new investment was structured, so she could show the family precisely where their new money would actually go. She needed proof strong enough that no one, not even Obiora, could argue his way around it. 2 weeks into her quiet investigation, Nkechi did something that surprised even her. She went to see Folake herself. She found the same small office in Yaba, the one she'd seen months before without understanding what it meant. She walked in alone, her heart pounding, her face calm. Folake looked up from her desk, recognition flickering across her face for just a second, before she covered it with the same practiced smile from the family meeting.
Mrs. Nkechi, this is unexpected.
I think you know why I'm here.
Folake's smile faltered slightly. I'm just a business associate. Whatever you think you know, Nkechi knows what this office does. I know the man you work for doesn't forgive debts. I know my husband owes him, and I know this supply contract is meant to pay that debt using my family's money instead of his own. The room was quiet for a long moment. I'm not the one you should be angry at, Folake finally said, and something almost tired crossed her face. I just deliver what I'm told to deliver. I'm not here for anger, Nkechi said. I'm here so you understand something. Whatever happens next, my family's money is not walking out that door to cover what your boss is owed, not one more naira. She left before Folake could answer. She didn't need an answer. She already had everything she needed. Have you ever had to stay calm and quiet while gathering proof, even while your heart was breaking or racing inside you? Tell me how you found the strength to wait before you acted.
Nkechi spent the following days preparing what she now had. Bank statements, the trail from the first failed investment to the loan shark's accounts, Adeze's notes on the compliance flags, and her own account written plainly of exactly who Folake was and where Nkechi had seen her before. She laid it all out on the kitchen table one evening while Obiora was still at work and looked at it the way her father used to look at accounts before making any serious decision. Then she did something she had never done in 11 years of marriage. She called a family meeting herself. The uncles were surprised to receive the invitation. Nkechi had always been present at family gatherings, always respectful, always quiet in matters of money and business. She had never once called a meeting on her own. That alone told them something serious was coming. Obiora arrived confused, glancing at Nkechi with a question in his eyes that she didn't answer. Once everyone was seated, Nkechi stood, the way Obiora had stood weeks earlier, and placed her folder on the table. The room quieted the way rooms do when they sense something is different this time. A few of the aunties exchanged glances. One of the younger cousins put his phone away without being asked. I asked you all here because there's something you need to see before any money leaves this family, she said. About the supply contract, about Miss Folake, and about where our savings actually went 8 months ago. Obiora's face changed instantly.
Nkechi, what is this?
Let her speak, Uncle Emeka said, his voice suddenly firm, his earlier warmth toward Obiora replaced with something more careful. Nkechi laid it out plainly, the way she'd rehearsed it in her head a dozen times. The missing pool funds from 8 months earlier, the failed private investment, the trail leading to a loan shark's account. Folake's real role, not as a partner building something new, but as a front arranging repayment through fresh family money. She passed the printed statement around the table, 1 page at a time, letting the numbers speak in a way her voice alone couldn't. Uncle Emeka studied each page slowly, his glasses low on his nose, his jaw tightening a little more with every line he read. The room grew heavier with every sentence. This isn't a business opportunity, she said finally. It's a second hole being dug to cover the first one. If you invest, that money doesn't build anything. It disappears into the same place the first money went. Obiora stood up fast, his chair scraping loudly against the floor. This is not what it looks like, he said, his voice too loud for the room. I was handling it. I was going to pay it back before anyone even noticed. Pay it back with what, Obiora? I asked quietly. With money you are about to take from the same people you already took from? You don't understand business, he said, his voice cracking now, desperation replacing his usual confidence. I was protecting the family from ever knowing. You weren't protecting us, Uncle Emeka said, standing slowly, his voice heavy with disappointment. You are protecting yourself, and you are about to let all of us pay for it. "Uncle, please let me explain properly," Obiora started, turning to the older man with the kind of pleading look he probably used successfully many times before in his life. "Explain what, exactly?" Uncle Emeka asked. "That you took our money once already, or that you brought a stranger into this house to help you take it again?" Obiora had no answer for that. He looked around the room, searching for an ally the way desperate men often do when the truth finally catches up to them. He found none. Even the cousins who usually laughed along at family gatherings sat with their arms folded, their faces unreadable. Folake, when contacted afterward, simply stopped answering calls. She disappeared from the situation entirely, unwilling to risk being tied publicly to a scheme that had just been exposed in front of an entire extended family. Whatever leverage her employer once held quietly over Obiora became a great deal harder to collect once it was dragged into daylight. The family did not disown Obiora, but something broke that evening that no apology could fully repair. The uncles refused to invest another naira. They insisted instead on a strict repayment plan, one that would take Obiora years to complete, monitored closely, with no room left for confidence to replace accountability. Uncle Emeka took on a new role after that night, one the family created specifically because of what had happened. He became the gatekeeper for any future contributions to the family pool, reviewing every proposal personally before a single naira moved anywhere. Obiora was humiliated in a way that lingered long after the meeting ended, not just for the money lost, but for what the family now understood about him. He had been willing to let his relatives absorb the cost of his own failure and his own dishonesty, dressed up as an opportunity, delivered with a smile. That night, after everyone had gone home, Obiora sat at the kitchen table, staring at nothing. "You knew," he said quietly, not looking at her. "This whole time you were gathering proof and you didn't tell me." "I didn't know if I could trust what you do with the truth," Nkechi said. "So I made sure the truth could stand on its own without needing you to admit anything first." "Are you leaving?" he asked. Nkechi considered the question honestly, the way she considered most things now. "I don't know yet, and I'm not going to pretend I do just to make this conversation easier for you." She didn't storm out. She didn't collapse into tears. She simply finished cleaning the kitchen the same way she had every night in 11 years and went to bed. In the weeks that followed, Nkechi took over the practical work of cleaning up the damage. She sat with Adaize reviewing the repayment schedule. She met with Uncle Emeka to help structure the new approval process for the family pool. She handled it all with a steadiness that surprised even people who had known her for years. She had spent months being underestimated, first by Obiora's confidence, then by her own doubts about whether her instincts could be trusted. Both had been wrong about her. There's a saying Nkechi's mother used to tell her: "The quiet river is not the weak one, it is simply the one that has not needed to show you what it can carry." Nkechi never raised her voice through any of it. She never needed to. The marriage's future stayed unresolved, deliberately so, sitting in the space between them like unfinished business neither of them rushed to close. But Nkechi had already gotten the answer that mattered most to her. Not whether Obiora would change, whether she was powerless as his confidence had once made her feel. She wasn't. She never had been. If you've ever had to be the calm one while everything around you was falling apart, and later realized just how strong that calm actually made you, let me know in the comments. Someone needs to hear that quiet and powerless are not the same thing. This is Nkechi's story, but somewhere, tonight, it might be yours too.